Yeah, we get a lot of feedback, especially on our webinars, from folks going, "Ah, my board, ah, my committee, ah, my ED, ah, my CEO." And so, like I said, we were going to frame this around like, are you dealing with a leader who's a curmudgeon or a lame duck or whatever? But
Mhm.
we decided not to go that route because there's always there's always multiple viewpoints, and there's a lot of people driving the ship, so to speak, right? There might be one person at the helm, but there's a lot of people driving the ship, and just being aware of that and being self-aware, I think, is a wonderful quality, and knowing what you're good at and understanding what you're good at and utilizing those skills and for the betterment of the organization and those that you're serving, just as a friendly reminder, of course,
Mhm.
is never bad. As
Yeah.
Jason mentioned previously, and I'm a huge believer in this, if you're not fulfilled, if you're feeling like you're pushing a rock up a hill, it's a heck of a lot easier pushing a rock downhill than a boulder downhill than it is uphill. So, if your happiness and whatnot and creative freedom and professional, worth is being questioned and things of that nature, we highly recommend, cutting bait and moving ship, so
Well,
as a friendly reminder
I
for
want to
folks.
just talk about that for just a second. When is it time to do that? I mean, when is it time to cut bait? Because sometimes I think we go, we get into this deal where, it's not so simple as that. I've got bills to pay and, a mortgage and a car payment, and I got a kid, and we're trying to make ends meet and doing all that stuff. So sometimes it's not just a simple deal of saying, well, I'm just going to go get another job, which in today's market, I think that's probably there's more opportunity for it than we've seen in a lot of times. And there's a lot of people that wind up leaving, the nonprofit world in the for-profit because they're just tired.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and
It's
so
hard.
I think you got to stop and identify what that really is. Is it really that your boss really sucks, or maybe you've kind of hit the end of the road? Maybe you
Sure.
need to get your mind right. I mean, what do you think
That's
about
okay
that?
too.
Well, I just think that
That's okay.
a lot. That's why I'm saying, just because your boss sucks doesn't give you that's not, don't use that as an excuse to suck yourself. Because a lot of times people that are really complaining and they're doing all that, a lot of times they're using it as an excuse to not perform. Well, my boss sucks. Well, my
Yeah.
boss, well, they're just not, they don't support me.
Jason and I believe in nobility when it comes to your profession, and even if you're, enter the job title. I don't want to be disparaging to what anyone does as a profession, but you need to go out at it, being even if it's not your forever job. You need to. There's a lot of self worth, and it's harmonious for your own life. To go out and be the absolute best that you can at that position, because
Yeah.
you might feel like you're in the shadows doing it, but people are watching. That's for
I,
sure. And you need to live with yourself, knowing that you are the best
yeah,
version
be the best
that
that
you
you can
can
be.
be.
I learned
Yeah.
more about how to be a leader from ones that sucked and the not good
Oh,
leaders.
yeah, it's a great
I
lesson
learned more from
of
them
what not
than
to
I
do.
did the ones
Yeah.
that were great.
You've also told me a ton of things, and I pepper a lot of ideas at you and a lot of questions about people and our team and stuff like that. And you know what, man, I've done that before, and I wish I didn't, or whatever. It's just like being self-aware and understanding, like because I throw some lofty stuff at you. I did it today, and you're like, listen, wouldn't go about it that way. I would do it this way because, man, I've screwed this up before with people, and I put them in a position where they didn't succeed, and they were doing great the way they were, and I rushed them or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's just got to learn
I
too.
had
You know
I
what I
had
mean? Got to be.
Well, I had this conversation with one of my best friends the other day, and we've had this conversation many times, and we were talking about
Mhm.
managers that we thought maybe when we were young that managers, bosses, whatever you want to call them,
Mhm.
that sucked. Okay,
Mhm.
but and he gave this example. He said, "Yeah, I had this manager, and all the guy seemed to do is sit over there and look at the friggin' paper. He didn't do anything. He didn't, make anything happen. He just was kind of over there, and he looked at the numbers, and talked about stuff, and he said, but now 20 years later, as a guy that has had his own company for many years and very successful in doing it, he goes, I look back
Mhm.
at him and realize he had the best department in the whole company. Now, he
Yeah.
wasn't super inspirational. He
Sure.
wasn't, this rah rah guy to go do all this stuff. And that was maybe what he wanted. But at the
Might
end
have
of the
the process is
day,
dialed.
his
Yeah.
processes it was accountability. He,
Yeah.
he, he took accountability. He made sure that his team was accountable to what they were supposed to do. And so I
Mhm.
think you've got to really look at all these different things. And if you're a moving up the ranks, so to speak, and you want to be in charge, it is a lot different sitting in the chair, being in command, than what you think it is. It just
Mm-hmm.
truly
Mm-hmm.
is. And
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like being a coach. It's
Mm-hmm.
real easy to sit in the stands and go, well, you should do this and you should do that and you should do this and you
Yeah.
should do that. But when you're standing on the sideline, I know that because I coached kids for over 30 years, well, 25 years. Um, when you're down there on the sideline and, and there's 90 seconds left and you only got one timeout and you're down by 5 points, it's not, I mean, you got to be able to figure it out. And it's not as easy to sit there as whenever you're sitting up in the stands watching. It's just different.
Yeah.
And I think all that stuff comes up, and you can learn so much from people. But I do believe if you got a genuine person who's just not nice and is bringing you down and you're miserable, I do. I'm not somebody who sits there and goes, why are you sticking this out? Maybe this is not the place for you to be. Maybe there's a better
Mm-hmm.
opportunity because there's somebody out there who will appreciate your skills and your effort
Mm-hmm.
and what you're
Mm-hmm.
doing, and you can do
Yeah,
more
you need
good
to be
there.
valued.
But
Yep.
but sometimes, you know, what we think somebody sucks and we think that they're doing this, if you just stop and really pay attention to what's going on, you'll find that there's a reason that person's been there for 10 years. There's a
Yep.
reason that they continue to raise more money than anybody else around them. There's a reason that that
Yeah.
organization serves more people. And,
You know,
you know,
or have a conversation.
yeah, there you
Communication can you can understand a lot about what's going on by asking why. You know what I mean, and things of that nature. So don't be afraid to have a conversation. Jason's an expert in this space. I've got a little bit of
I
experience
don't, wouldn't,
now,
I would say
and
I've just screwed up so many times that
you
I've
just been
made a
around
lot
the
of
block,
mistakes.
man. You've seen a lot of it, man.
Well,
You've
it's
seen a
just,
lot of it in big organizations and
I started out with my
a lot
first
of employees, and
people
you
working for
know,
me when I was 23 years old. And, I think back to that now and I go, holy cow. I didn't know my left hand from my right hand, much less how to do that. I just did it. And I made a lot of mistakes. A
yep,
lot. And I've
yep,
screwed up so many ways. I've promoted people when they didn't need to be promoted. I fired them when they waited too long to fire.
hmm
Probably the number one mistake is letting somebody go. I should have let them go way early than what I did.
those are things that are
And
becoming very, very common that I'm hearing about with different businesses and different organizations. Is
oh,
like,
everybody think
listen,
everybody thinks that it's
hire on character.
yeah. Everybody thinks,
Hire on
oh, well, I don't want to
character.
get fired. I don't want to get fired. I'm telling you, everybody that
That could be a
and
blessing, man.
I was a part of an entrepreneurs organization. Everybody had employees. The
Yep.
number one issue everybody always talked about was employees.
People. Yeah.
It's always people. That's all the problems. It's not anything else.
Yeah.
It's always people. And the one thing that everybody it was always people were so worried. They were worried they were going to get fired. And I'm like, they don't understand. It is hard to fire somebody. And I don't mean
Mm,
hard process wise. I mean emotionally, it's
for
difficult to
sure.
do that because you've invested so much time, so much money. You've got a lot of money tied up in that employee. Okay,
Yep. Yep.
getting them
Turnover is the most
trained.
costly.
Well,
Yeah.
and loss of institutional knowledge. You've got somebody who's been with the organization 5, 10 years. They know how it works. They understand the deal. They've got relationships built. All of a sudden, they're gone.
Yep.
That's a hard to replace, that institutional knowledge they have. So I
Yep.
really, I think that's something that people miss a lot that are not, when they're looking at their leaders or their bosses and they think that, and it's just not the
Yeah.
case.
I think there's also something that gets spoken about often. I mean, I think it's reality in like for profit, but also nonprofit. The nonprofit space. There's a lot of turnover in general. Like people, I'm going to
Yeah.
move to this organization. It comes up often. We've had people tell us that we gave them their dream job, so that's pretty amazing. But at the same time, if that person in 2 years left for another job in the same field, making more money and working for a bigger organization or something that really stoked their fire, you know, at the end, we don't have to train ourselves to feel this way. We're really happy for other people's success. I think that's something that you should be disciplined about if you're a leader. And if someone leaves your organization, becomes a star somewhere else, that's a reflection of you.
That's so true.
In a small way or a big way. So I think that's something to definitely be aware of for sure.
Well,
And
you've got to be looking at people and seeing them, looking how you can raise people up. If you are the
yeah.
CEO or the executive director and you're doing that,
Hmm.
start looking for people that you can raise up into leadership
Yep.
positions and doing that.
We want people's
because
best version.
you know,
Yeah,
try to start
everyone wins
figuring
that
out
way.
who's going to be your replacement. You know, if you needed to leave or you decided to go, who
Yeah.
can step in and take that deal over? Because what you're doing is you're investing into your employees and you're investing into your team. And I think that's one thing that I have learned,
Mhm.
that the most valuable thing that a leader can do with their team is spend time with them, give them time.
Mm.
Not just
You've taught
whenever
me
you
that
got a
as well.
problem, not
Yeah.
just whenever you got to chew their butt out, not just,
Yep.
hey, on the deal. Just to stop and say, how's it going?
Yep.
What can I had one of those calls today with one of our folks, and I said, what can we do to make your job, help you be more effective, to make the job
Yep.
easier? Is there any tools that
Yep.
you need? Anything that, we can provide?
Yep.
And
I think that's awesome.
it does a couple things. One is it lets them know that you care about what they're doing, that you're
Mhm.
there to help them.
Mhm.
And just because they come up and go, well, no, everything's good, that's okay,
Right.
because they know that
Right.
you care. It does a couple things.
God, you've taught me that, man, more than I realize. You taught me that because I'm a very everything's going great. No news is good news. I'm good, so they're good. you know?
And then you
And you're like,
find
"Hey
out, and
man,
then all of a sudden you
you
get hit
know?"
with a baseball bat right between the eyes, and you're
You're
like,
like,
oh, didn't see
"Brother,
that
pick
coming.
up the phone. Pick up the phone." And I'm really outgoing, and I've had to ask that out of myself and teach myself that. And you've helped me with that, and I think that's been really a cool lesson for me. Running our organization, and yeah, like you said, I mean, that is that's a gift. Time is a gift. Whoever you give that to, and it's definitely something to keep in mind for sure. I move very very quick, so it's been a tough lesson for me, but I'm working on it. Another really good thing. We should wrap up, dude. But another really really cool thing that we've been imploring is, we're hiring on character. Do they have the hospitality mindset? Because a lot of what we do is in hospitality and customer service and in all facets with each other. And if they're of good character, and we'll find a place on the bus for them, you know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Yeah,
So
well,
I don't think that can be overstated. You know what I mean?
we,
So
the deal is you hire people for what they do and you fire them for who they are.
oh,
And
interesting. Yeah,
um,
yeah.
and it's to make sure that you, in the hiring process, that you hire them for who they are, not just what they can do. Because we teach people what we need them to
Totally.
do.
Acumen is there. Acumen is there. We're
Um,
not talking about rocket science a lot of times. We just want a way of treating people and playing well with others
mhm.
and being kind
Well,
to
we go
others.
through all this stuff
I
about
know.
what they do and how they know, and then they wind up being just not. They're just not nice.
So that's becoming, those soft skills and things like that are becoming way more evident in the workplace, and it's important. And it's been proven to me time and time again. So if you're all right, Jay, we'll leave them with that. We'll leave folks
I've got
with
one
that.
more
And,
thing I wanted to say. This is
yeah, hit me.
one thing for people that are struggling with a boss or somebody in their leadership.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
The worst thing in the world that you can ever do is to badmouth, undercut, do whatever somebody because you think that they're a bad boss. And I'm not
That's a
saying
really
that
good
you're
point.
wrong, but I just think it's one of the worst things that you can do because it becomes very apparent, and
Yeah, that's
it
cancerous.
doesn't help the situation. Actually, it makes it worse because other people see you dogging them, and they don't see that.
Yeah.
And it really reflects bad on you.
We have a
So you
rule
gotta be
about that
really
in our
careful.
organization.
Yeah, you got to
We
be.
have a rule about that in our organization. We don't do that with our clients. We don't do that with each other. We don't gossip. There's no BS.
Well, we try not to.
That's
I'm not going to say it's perfect, and it doesn't ever happen. But we strive for that.
I mean, it's paramount for us. So, and that's been a blessing. It's actually really been a blessing. Been in plenty of work environments where it wasn't healthy, and that's not fun for you. It wears on people, that's for sure. That's a really good point. Well, that's a good way to close, brother. I think that's
All right,
awesome.
man.
We'll continue to have this conversation. Everyone's got their own teams and nuances and personalities they're dealing with and stuff, and we're just going to continue having the conversation. So I appreciate it, man. I think it's really, really good. Thanks everybody for listening.
Hey, appreciate everybody. And if you're struggling
Yep.
with any of this stuff, and you're like,
Email us.
let us know. Jason at HGA Fundraising, Trevor at HGA Fundraising. We're happy to talk to you about it and maybe some situations, and because we get exposed to a lot of stuff, or maybe we know somebody that we can connect you with. It's kind of help you through that situation. So
happy to do it. Yeah. So please don't hesitate. We're here to help, and Secret safe with us.
Yeah. All right. See you, everybody.
All right. Talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening. If you love our podcast, click the subscribe button below, like this video, and leave your questions in the comments. See you next time.